team, it's Manika-Nia coming from Her Natural Living Handbook, and today I'm totally switching up pace with this vlog style video about what it's like having a white partner and how to deal with having a white partner as a woman of color. So if you're interested to know, then stay with me because we're gonna go deep. Those of you that don't know what my ethnicity and my background is already can go and check the video where I delve very deep into it. I am a mixed woman, but in my opinion, I am very uniquely situated in my mix and my identity. I explain all that in the video, but just a very brief synopsis of it. I'll let you know what my grandparents are on each side and thus what my parents are, and of course meaning what I am. When I refer to black in this video, I am specifically referring to Black American, aka African American. My dad's dad is black and my dad's mother is Filipino, possibly Filipino, Chinese, and Spanish, but I'm not 100% sure if that's come from the fact that colonialism happened in the Philippines and so her blood has some of those in them. I'm not sure if all Filipinos have some kind of mix like that, or if specifically my grandmother had a parent that was Spanish or Chinese or mixed. I'm just going based on what my father said, and so that's his side. And growing up, what I knew or what I understood was that on my dad's side we were black and Filipino. My mother's father is black, but he had a grandmother who was a full Choctaw woman, so mostly black, got a bit of American Indian, aka true American. And my mother's mother is black and Creole. Creole has a connotation that refers to some kind of a mix or a gumbo, but specifically for my grandmother, her parents were from Louisiana. They had a mix of French and black. So that's what makes up myself, my siblings, my parents. And as you can see, and as people comment all the time, I'm quite pale skinned, and I think that others who might share similar mixes as me see themselves primarily as a mixed person, but that wasn't the case for me, and I don't think it's the case for any of my siblings, and there is a reason why. For a lot of mixed people, I think that they do have a parent or grandparent where culturally they can feel that. So for me, having a Filipino grandmother or Filipino cousins or something like that, that would make me feel that identity of having that mix in me. But unfortunately, my grandmother, I believe, was disowned from her family back in the Philippines and all that she knew, possibly because she married a black man. So for herself and her children in America, they grew up very much with a Filipino mother, but no other ties to the homeland for them. When myself and my siblings were reared and brought into the world, I personally don't remember ever meeting my Lola, which I believe that's Filipino, Tagalog for grandmother, but I don't remember ever meeting her. I never met any of our Filipino family. Like, I don't even know not one person from my grandmother's clan, literally not one. The closest traditions that I knew growing up was how to make lumpia, but we very much made our own variation, which it turns out that in Filipino homes they wouldn't even make it the way we make it. So while I love that I have Filipino in me, I love that part of me, as a child growing up, I very much didn't identify with that because that's not what I saw, that's not what I knew, and it's not what we were taught about very much. Now, my father, we grew up calling him Tatay, which again, I believe means dad or father in Tagalog, Filipino. We knew our grandmother as Lola, and I knew a few words, but aside from that, and aside from, you know, my dad's door, he's got a Filipino flag and he's also got the African American flag. That's just how he rolls. For us, my siblings, what we saw was our family, my dad's family, which Black and Filipino, but Black, really. And my mom's side, which, okay, maybe some French and Choctaw, but Black. We grew up Black, and that's all that we knew. The older generation of my family also, maybe even a step further from pro-Black, but could be quite militant in a lot of their ideals. I know that my mother and all of her siblings, as part of the movement of the time, all changed their names. So I think my mom... of my family were part of the Black Panther Party, and their ideals are very much a reflection of the time that they are from and the era that they lived through. And it's no surprise then that the ideals permeated through my parents' generation and some of my cousins' generations as well. We are definitely the kind of family that if it's not Black stuff, it just gets categorized as white people stuff. That's literally the language that is used. Anything that is outside of Black that's white people stuff. The additions of non-Black family members are also quite sparse. Even though you look at us, we're a multicultural kind of family, it's very rare that a new addition is someone who is non-Black, and even more rare of a new addition being white. There are a few of us, I believe I can count 3 or 4 that do have white partners, myself included. But when you come from a family that has a similar mindset to what I just explained, it makes this all the more complicated. And I know that many of my lovelies out there are dealing with the same kinds of questions and feelings as come up when you are in a interracial relationship. And specifically if you are a Black person dating a white person. In my earlier dating career, I did date a few non-Black men, but for the most part, when I was sourcing a partner, he did have to be Black or at least be mixed with Black, but I never dated a white person in America at all. And for the most part, any of the non-Black guys that I did date, they at least had to be mixed with some stuff. At least have more than one ethnicity in them. And in my head, my ideal mate had to be Black or at least be mixed with Black, have Black in him. And I definitely felt that I would end up with a Black man, and that's just the way that it had to be. But when I moved to London for the first time ever, I was attracted to white dudes, specifically English dudes, because my whole life living in America, and it had no appeal to me. And I moved to London, and I don't know what it was, maybe it was just the accent, but I was like, oh, okay, I will have some of that. Anyway, the man that I have ended up marrying is actually an Englishman, though he prefers to be called Scouse because he's from Liverpool. And it comes with its own brand of challenges, and I want to share with you because I know that more than one of you are dealing with the same kinds of thoughts, and I want to offer my experience and also my uncertainties. First, let me say Mick is the loveliest person that I've ever met in my entire life. He is uncommonly kind, generous, and he really just goes to bat for me every time. My mom says he is just pro Nika, and I feel that. I wish that every woman, no, scratch that. I wish that every person had a partner like Mick, and I say that to him all the time because he literally just rocks with me so hard. And when I see the kinds of relationships that my friends have and the ways their partners are, I'm always just like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky. Mick not only allows me space to be exactly who I am, but he really just loves me to pieces. And with him, for the first time in my entire life, it just always feels like home. He for sure is my day one. He's the person that I want to spend all my time with. He's the person I feel most comfortable in this entire world with. And I'm so happy and blessed to be in this kind of relationship. This doesn't just happen every day. Now, of course, I and probably anyone else would want to take everything that I've just said and say, well, that's it. What do you have to have a discussion about having a white partner for when you feel those things and when those things are real? You want to say color doesn't matter, and it's all about that love and how you feel. And I wish it were that way, but it's not. And it's not because of the world that we live in. For me, despite the way that I grew up and the ideals of my family when it comes to blackness and other ethnicities, it is not so much that I'm in an interracial relationship as it is about being with a white person as a woman of color, specifically a black woman. For me, it's the colonizer aspect and the oppressive overtones and white privilege that is very much a fabric of society as we live in it today. All of that is what makes having a white partner especially tricky for me. And to any of my white viewers out there, I really hope that you can understand. Of all the ethnicities on this planet, white people are looked at as the default, and all the rest of us are people of color. That in itself should trigger something in everyone to say, okay, what's going on here? Why is that? Just something as small as that. Why? Well, it's to do with colonialism. It all tracks back to that. That's my truth. After the murder of George Floyd, all of my doubts really just came to the forefront. And it wasn't doubts about Mick as a person. It was just all of the noise that you live with when you are a human being and you grow up a certain way and you make a certain choice that doesn't align with how you grew up. For me, it forced me to have a conversation with myself that I didn't have before. It was always there. Mick and I always talk about, to be honest, we always talk about black stuff. That's just what we're like. But it was after the murder that you could really see where people stood. And even though Mick and I are married and we've been together for so long, it was during this that everything cropped up for me. So it was things that his white friends have said, things that people close to him have said, and things that, I don't know, maybe people feel. And I was definitely feeling like a confused person. It was things like, if Mick was in a room with all white people, they don't know his association to me. What kind of things are said when they feel like it's a safe space of whiteness? And I was feeling completely uncertain. I was also feeling like, and I know not all mixed people feel this, but for me, again, because I feel uniquely situated in that I just grew up black. Like, my bad that my melanin's not popping, but that's how I grew up. So for me, I feel like my children will be black children. Obviously, my husband is not black. He's the furthest from it, but that's still very much how I feel. And so I was really questioning or wondering, does Mick understand that? Would Mick be able to reconcile with that as a father of a child who is not going to be white if he has the child with me? I know in Africa that if you are a mixed race person, you're just considered white, but I am from America, and where I grew up and what we were taught is that one drop rule. So you got a bit of black in you, oh, that's what you are. I was just going through it in my head of all of these things. I also really wanted my husband to understand his privilege. I think that a problem with many white people is that they feel like, well, I'm not super rich. I've got so many struggles. I'm disadvantaged in certain areas. So it's almost like feeling blamed. But for me and my old man and the conversations we were having, I just wanted him to understand that he didn't have the same kinds of struggles solely because of his skin color. The same as I know that I don't have the same struggles as my darker sisters because, again, it just tracks back to colonialism. I very much wanted my husband to stand with me and my people, and even though he did let me know very much where he stood, I didn't know if him saying it was good enough, and I also didn't know if he could fully understand, if he could have the capacity to understand. And so I was really feeling like I was in a star-crossed kind of circumstance. I was having all of these thoughts about Manika-Nia and everything just cascading down at once. I, like many humans, sometimes listen too much to my mama, and I always want my mom to really be like, Mick is an amazing person. Don't worry about that aspect. But she doesn't, that's just not how she approaches things. And so I always read into it, like, is she really saying, like, because she's not giving me that kind of assurance, is she saying that I'm doing something wrong as a black woman? And so it was just noise, noise, noise. I wondered if Mick would stand up for not only me, and not just because I'm me, but for my people and for humanity. I literally was questioning if all white people had something in them that felt that they were superior to any person of color, and specifically where it goes to the opposite end of the spectrum where 100% feel superior to black people. And it was a trying period because you don't have the answers to these kinds of questions. I also was playing back things in my head where I have lived over in Europe for 10 years now. And there have been times, again, I'm a paler skinned person, and I'm also, I don't know, possibly an ambiguous type of person. Maybe you don't know what I am when you see me. You know I'm not white, but that's about it, possibly. So there have been times where people have said something because they don't know that I'm black. And I'm just like, so if these types of people can be comfortable in their majority when they're around others, that they can say certain things, what are they like when I am not there and when just my partner is there? And what is my partner like? Where does he actually stand? Does he feel like I don't count in the whole black thing? What I mean is, does he feel like, oh, okay, I'll stick up for Manika because I love her, but I'm not gonna stick up for black people because that's not how I feel? Does he separate the two? I was going through things where I've heard his friends use derogatory terms. I was going through just the fact in living in all of these spaces where when they refer to one another, it's the blonde one, it's the brunette, but whenever it's us, oh, the black one. It's so much. It really is so much. And it tracked me back to the first instance of racism that I encountered in Ireland, where Mick was at work. He works in a warehouse setting. They have the radio on, some kind of newscast came on the radio, and one of the lads, who is quite young, and you don't expect this from the young ones, or in my naivety, I did not expect this. I think maybe the older generation have antiquated beliefs and they say some stupid shit, but I wasn't expecting it from the younger generation. Basically, something came on the radio. The dude was like, oh, I hate them. Mick said, who? What are you on about? And the kid said, niggas. And Mick said, well, my missus is black, you know. And the kid said, yeah, but she's not black, is she? It's moments like that that make this so challenging. And every single interracial relationship has, and yes, I do not like the term interracial, but yes, every interracial relationship does have those kinds of elements. But because of the power paradigm at play in the world, for me, having a white partner as a black person is so loaded, and it's so difficult to understand how to navigate through it. And unfortunately, I don't have the answer, but I do have a fantastic tool: this communication and discussion with your partner and with those in your community. And that's honestly why I really wanted to make this video, because I have got questions about it, and it is something that I know is loaded, but I think it takes these kinds of discussions to figure out how we can manage it and how we can navigate through it. Mick and I definitely got through that period. It was more me than was him, and by more me, I don't know what he was thinking, I don't know what he was going through, but I know I was going through so much during the week when we first found out about what happened to George Floyd, and for many of the weeks after. I know the whole world erupted. I know specifically for the black community, we were all going through this specific brand of pain. And I know that also any black person who has a white partner was feeling all kinds of feels. So Mick and I got through that period, and the way that we did was through discussion, probably far too much discussion for him, but I needed that. I needed to be able to soundboard with him how I was feeling. I needed to be able to let him know how I felt about our future children. And I needed to know where he stands on a human level. Now, when I was on my English people dating spree in England, I did have one other white boyfriend. And yeah, his family is from Wales. We went over to visit, and his grandfather was talking about darkies. Yeah, and the boyfriend himself, he didn't really listen to any of my kind of music. He didn't really understand any of my kind of culture. And the one thing that I will say for Mick and for our relationship, which I'm so thankful for, is that Mick truly loves hip-hop. He loves rap music. He loves black movies. He loves this part of my culture that I love, and it helps me to understand that he sees the beauty in us and what we bring to this existence, and that helps. Mick is totally an incredible human, and it is a shame that these kinds of talks have to occur, or that these kind of thoughts have to happen with any person of color who is dating a white person. But one more time for the people in the back, it is very much a result of the colonialistic ideals that permeate through this entire planet. And in the world we live in, white, and whatever that means still systemically holds this kind of power, and black are always at the bottom of the barrel. And I say this in living in more than one country, in Europe, in America, and in Asia. So it's a challenge. And the only way that we can get through it is through getting through it together. So any of my POCs out there who feel me or who don't, comment, let me know your thoughts. Let's open up this discussion. Let's keep the discussion going. Thanks for letting me open up about my story in this very different setting than what we are used to here on this channel. I truly love y'all to bits. All of my viewers, you are so amazing. You make me so encouraged to create content, and I love you to bits. I say it in every video, but I'm so serious. So thank you, and come back next Thursday as we switch pace back up to natural hair with my Boo-Clim review, a black-owned product line that you just might want to try. So until then, I am loving you loads. Don't forget to treat yourself. Love ya. Bye.